Yet again, another creator from Los Angeles was caught right in the middle of a damning controversy. Severe allegations against the Vlog Squad thrust the multi-award-winning YouTube golden child David Dobrik into the spotlight for his lack of action, awareness, and reaction.
I can address some conversations that have been going on the internet.
The story of one college girl's adventure in 2018 sent shockwaves throughout the online community, leading to questions of who else and how many. David Dobrik isn't the first person seen as an untouchable sweetheart to be brought crashing down to reality, and he's definitely not the last. Because for some reason, those who create content in the entertainment capital of the world are seemingly prone to being controversial and doing not so nice things to other people. Surround them with leagues of yes men who are out for their own benefit, you begin to create a very unstable culture which breeds nothing but degeneracy.
Jake can start clapping and everyone else here has to.
What I want to know is where David Dobrik went so wrong, what this phenomena looks like, and how this can be controlled to stop more people getting hurt by those with an inflated sense of self. To investigate this, we will analyze the Vlog Squad allegations, from Trisha Paytas' 2019 complaints to the allegations from Insider's investigation. Kat Tenbarge will join us as we discuss how the story came into fruition and the likelihood of more stories like this coming out. Then, we will explore the backlash David Dobrik received and how his response to the situation made everything much worse. This will lead into our analysis of LA creators themselves, the groups who live there, and what is being done to reform this culture. So join me as we take a hypothetical trip to the busy streets of Los Angeles.
He made the conscious decision to allow this behavior to happen within his presence and within the Vlog Squad.
There's a serious opportunity to correct yourself, to learn and improve, and to make sure those mistakes don't happen again.
I think we're all going to jail.
Hey guys, it's David. I want to come on here real quick and address some conversations that have been going on the internet.
For 2.5 minutes, David Dobrik delivered a message to his fans, explaining how he believes he's no longer aligned with the content scrutinized for exploiting other people. He says he understands how important consent is, and that any violation can be corrected by taking down a video. He claims he has distanced himself from those who are supposedly at the center of the conversations and has since focused on producing positive content.
David Dobrik has been dropped from several partnerships in the wake of sexual misconduct allegations surrounding the Vlog Squad.
Since Dobrik's response video was posted, he has lost over 200,000 YouTube subscribers.
Because it's just stuff that they should have addressed. And I honestly think him losing sponsors could have been avoided if he just addressed this early on rather than have it now everybody comes up.
After a week of heavy financial loss and after being removed from various organizations, Dobrik added an extra 5 minutes of public statement in a 7-minute video on his 18 million subscriber channel. Sitting on his floor, seemingly having a one-on-one chat with the viewer, he explains his regret for the story coming out.
I wish I was more aware at the time, and I'm so sorry I missed that. I didn't know what was going on in that room, and I should have been. I should have been there, and I should have been making sure that everybody involved was taken care of and wasn't uncomfortable.
He made this statement after losing millions of dollars worth of sponsorships. However, the Vlog Squad's problems aren't new, and they reflect a troubling pattern with the pursuit of entertaining content. In February 2019, Trisha Paytas uploaded a since-deleted video regarding the toxic culture within the Vlog Squad. She claimed Dobrik targeted her for reactions he could use within his 4-minute 20 vlogs, saying the jokes he made were hurtful. Such instances of this were in a vlog which included her former boyfriend Jason Nash telling Dobrik he would buy him a Ferrari if he can get Tana Mongeau to agree to a threesome with him and Trisha. Dobrik asked Tana if she would when they met 3 months later. Another vlog saw Nash and Mongeau bickering.
How do you feel about Jason wanting to have a threesome with you?
But why me, Jason? You couldn't do better.
Because he likes broken girls. Is that true or true?
Yeah, it's true.
She also claimed Nash had been indecent towards Mongeau during the filming of a mock date for content on Dobrik's channel. She says he tried to kiss Tana and she responded by pulling away. His response was, "It's for the video," disregarding Tana's discomfort with the advance. These videos mentioned were swiftly removed. The theme of consent would continue into February this year when another Vlog Squad member accused Dobrik and Vlog Squad members of sexual assault and using him as the punchline for racially insensitive jokes. Joseph Francois recounted on the H3 podcast a sketch in Dobrik's vlogs where he was asked to open a refrigerator.
You were at the friend's house and then they open a fridge and a bunch of watermelons fall out or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And so you,
and a lot of kids don't understand because these things, they seem like, watermelon is just, it's watermelon. Like a lot of people like watermelon. I also particularly enjoy eating watermelon, but there is racially charged ideals that are behind, trying to spin in a comedic way.
It's obvious they're making a racial joke.
Yeah.
Seth explains he felt pressured to participate in the group's exploitation of his ethnicity as the foot of a joke. This is because once people had said they were uncomfortable going along with the jokes, they eventually found themselves less involved with the videos.
It's not like David is sitting there like, oh, you have to do this. You don't do this, you're out the group,
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of like an unwritten thing where you see a pattern of people saying like, yo, I'm uncomfortable with this. Hey, bro, like this isn't really cool. That all of a sudden they just disappear and then they're not videos anymore.
He then says he was assaulted whilst filming for one of Dobrik's videos, where he had consented to kiss a disguised Corinna Kopf. However, the video's prank was Seth thinking he would kiss Corinna, but instead, it would be Jason Nash. He says he did not consent to this, and after reflecting on it months later, he felt violated. In response to this, Seth was met with an attack from Vlog Squad member Scott Sire, who said he had lied and actually provided Dobrik with consent. However, he inadvertently reinforced Seth's claims because the supposed proof of consent was for another video after the alleged assault. This was seen by most as a tactic to invalidate Seth and his story, essentially victim blaming him because he had later consented to the other prank. As a result, Sire quickly took the video down and went straight to the Note app to claim he was sorry for acting on emotion. It was an awful video and had a certain lack of awareness towards consent and sexual assault. Seth told BuzzFeed he came forward with his story because he wanted to encourage others to think about their experiences and if they've ever felt something that happened to them was wrong. He says he also wanted to make a statement about power and how it can be used to manipulate people into doing things they maybe wouldn't do without pressure. Issues within the Vlog Squad were building, with other creators like Big Nick speaking out as well, but it wasn't until March the final string was pulled.
Hannah is an anonymous account, and she told it to me a few weeks prior to publication, but over a year before that, she actually reached out to another reporter, a colleague of mine. That reporter couldn't publish it because she's always wanted to be anonymous, and not every publication will let you run anonymous accounts from people involved with social media allegations.
The accusation of a young woman named Hannah being assaulted back in 2018, whilst many members of the group were present and filming for a video, caught a lot of people off guard.
I think what surprised people about Hannah's story is that she wasn't a YouTuber. She wasn't involved in the scene at all. She was really just somebody who, by chance, stumbled into the Vlog Squad and the environment that they had created and walked away with really serious repercussions. Hannah was really sort of an innocent bystander. Her interest in getting the story out there was purely to spread awareness. She didn't want this story to come up and have that be associated with her. And the other thing is that since David has such a gigantic fan base and the Vlog Squad is so followed and so beloved, she didn't want to have to deal with all of the pushback and blowback from his stans.
Hannah's story was that former Vlog Squad member Dominikas Zaglatis, or Dirty Dom, was accused of indecently assaulting her when she was far too intoxicated to give consent. She was invited, along with her college friends, to hang out with some members of the Vlog Squad after Zaglatis had messaged them asking to hook up. Some of them were fans of Dobrik's channel and knew how the vlogs worked, so they inquired with Zaglatis to see if he would be in character, as he supposedly portrayed a sex addict in the vlogs. Whatever that's supposed to mean. The girls were taken to an apartment where the Vlog Squad were filming and filed into the main room where the members were waiting. The premise of the stunt was revealed beforehand, and the goal was to get Zaglatis his first threesome. The girls are seen sitting down, drinking and talking to members of the Vlog Squad, and then it cuts to Dobrik with a voiceover.
By some stroke of luck and master negotiating, Dom made progress.
The video was a gross and apparent abuse of power by a group of men who had the intent of objectifying a group of young women for content. The commentary by Dobrik clearly emphasizes how consent was negated in this instance. If you need to convince someone to consent, then they are clearly being pressured to do so, and that is extremely manipulative and disgusting. Add intoxication, and it's downright criminal. With the talk about violence against women elevated around the world, this is a perfect example of how media can construct dangerous discourse with behavior towards them. The girls used in these videos are exploited because they're being reduced to objects for sex. They aren't being included because they are seen as valuable members of the overall narrative. They're being objectified to collect views. Now, a petty side piece to this drama was the unnecessary agitation by Vlog Squad member Jeff Wittek, who launched an attack on Kat for telling the story and tried to discredit the allegations in the process. He was one of the people identified in the video from the night, and so was contacted by Kat to comment on what was alleged.
Jeff Wittek was the only other Vlog Squad member who directly responded to me, and we had a conversation that took place before the story came out, as well as one that took place after the story was published. In the first conversation, Jeff started off by denying that he had been at the apartment that night at all, to which I told him I had the footage, I was aware that he had been there, and I explained that Hannah's friend remembered him and Todd Smith coming back that night with alcohol. I relayed this information to Jeff over the phone, and he emphatically denied that he ever would have bought the alcohol. He insinuated that Todd may have been the one to actually purchase the liquor that night because he said Todd loves whiskey. And I explained to him over the phone that I would be including what the girls had remembered that night, but that I would also include his denial, and he seemed okay with that.
When the article was released, Jeff Wittek was named in a small portion that explains how the alcohol the girls were drinking made it into the apartment.
Jeff responded by asking me if we could have another conversation, and I agreed. And I talked to Jeff for around 30 minutes. During that second call, he was expressing a lot of discontent with how the article portrayed him. He didn't really want his name in there at all, and he told me that he was now losing sponsors and that people online were mad at him and were calling him all kinds of names. And I told him that I was sorry to hear that, to which he asked me, "Are you sorry to hear it, or are you sorry that you wrote it?" And I told him I wasn't sorry that I wrote it because I was just doing my job.
Jeff had decided to record this conversation without Kat's knowledge, something beyond ethical and completely negating consent, which is very bad optics considering the issues in the article revolve around consent. What he did was legal, but how he used the recording was insincere and misled people into believing a false narrative when he uploaded the recording in a video onto his channel.
He mischaracterized our conversation and stated that I was apologizing for reporting basically incorrect information that was attributed to the wrong people. In response to that video, I got a ton of hate from Jeff's fans. A lot of people just took him at face value and started to attack me and on various platforms for something that wasn't true and was ultimately super misconstrued. I initially responded in a Twitter thread where I included like a recording from our initial conversation, basically showing this is what I asked Jeff, this is what he said, and this is why I included it in the piece, showing that I had just done my due diligence and not really misconstrued his words.
Jeff didn't respond to Kat's threat, but he did later talk about it on the Frenemies podcast with Ethan Klein and Trisha Paytas.
He admitted that he hadn't read the full article, And he also looked pretty bad because Ethan threw up a photo of him at the apartment at the end of the night. And previously, Jeff had been denying that he was actually there for any of the acts that were described, but he definitely was there for the duration of the girls being there. So people had been supporting him. People thought that I was lying and that I had done my job wrong. But by the end of the day, I think people were able to recognize that Jeff's story was very all over the place.
From this, the most telling issue with Jeff Wittek was the fact he cared more about losing sponsors than the fact a woman had been assaulted whilst he and his friends were present and making themselves money at Hannah's expense.
This article currently costs me every partnership I've worked my entire life to build. And it's all just because I was trying to help by telling the reporter the truth.
Now, one thing that stands out about Hannah's story is that it was preventable, and the person responsible for this is David himself.
A lot of people have questioned whether David should be at fault for any of this. And I think what's important to remember is that this isn't the first allegation to come out against Dom, and David has responded to the allegations against Dom in the past in a couple of ways.
Dom's behaviour towards women became the subject of scrutiny after VidCon 2017, where he faced many accusations of misconduct.
There were a few days on Twitter where all of these allegations were coming out about Dom. Some of them were from the comedian and former YouTuber Elijah Daniel, and he was alleging that Dom had groped one of his friends at a party, and that when confronted, Dom just blamed it on the fact that he was drunk. And then the most serious allegation was a YouTube video by a woman named Allie Hardesty. Dom had approached her and she didn't really know who he was or who his character was at that point, but she said that she was like dancing with him and talking to him and that he was really, really aggressive. She initially was freaked out by how sexually aggressive he was, but that her friends had told her, oh, you know, he's playing a character. His character is Dirty Dom. This is just how he is. And they also said that she should keep talking to him because he was part of this incredible, famous YouTube vlog squad. He led her to this sort of private balcony area where there were a bunch of people around and there was a couch. And she said she sat down and he got on top of her. And despite her saying no, despite her trying to get away from him, he, first of all, kissed her without her consent. And second of all, he actually reached into her shirt and groped her without her consent. When Allie came out with this story, this prompted Dom to make his first apology video.
Hey guys, so I just wanted to talk to you about some stuff that's been going on with VidCon. There's been some accusations made about me, so I just wanted to make sure I got the story out there and let everyone know what's going on. The accusations against me aren't 100% true, but to an extent they are. I am aggressive when talking to women, I will say that. And there's a difference between being forward and persistent, but what I was doing was just too intense, and now I'm working on that. And from here on out, for all the new people I meet and the people I know, I'm gonna make sure to be respectful.
And David commented on that video, and David said, you know, like, it's tough to come forward about these things, but I'm glad that you made this video. So David fully knew that there were allegations like this against Dom. David fully was aware that Dom himself like admitted to having a pattern of being sexually aggressive. And then the other thing that happened that week that I think a lot of people didn't pick up on was that in one of his fan group chats, David acknowledged again the stuff with Dom, and he said that they wouldn't be making those kinds of jokes anymore because he didn't realize how close they were to the reality of Dom's character.
Seemingly, Dobrik had made the correct decision and decided to gradually phase out Dom from the vlogs and the group over the following months.
But by the end of the year, the character of Dirty Dom was back. David acknowledged what was going on, waited for the backlash to subside, and then brought this character back in full force. And all of this happened before Hannah ever walked into that apartment. We have a pattern of David not being completely innocent in this because he fully acknowledged that this was like a part of Dom's character, both in the vlogs and in real life, and he kept doing it. He made the conscious decision to like allow this behavior to happen.
Yeah, he can't really say he didn't know even afterwards as well, because that was in 2017. The allegations are from 2018. The girl asked for that video to be removed because of what happened. So he knew that something had happened again, and he hasn't done anything about it since.
Yep.
So it's taken 3 years for this to come out.
Exactly. And people think that, you know, David had no idea what happened in that room as it was going on, which you could argue back and forth the merits of that, but he absolutely knew what Hannah said in her text to Dom because he agreed to remove the video. So he absolutely was aware of what had actually happened that night, and he waited until it became a big public scandal to address it or apologize for it in any way.
The fact it took nearly 3 years for this story to come out is an extreme injustice, not just to the girl who spoke up, but to all victims. The cracks in David Dobrik's nice guy persona gradually grew until the floodgates burst open and the criticism rolled in. His response to the situation was purely reactive to the fact he was being negatively affected. This seems to be a common theme amongst many of the larger creators who live in Los Angeles. They will reach a point where they are seen as untouchable, and then they do something stupid or something they've done gets brought up. If enough people start to criticize them and they reach the mainstream news cycle, they release some sort of statement or just immediately apologize. When there's a new issue seemingly every week, it starts to become rather concerning about what's happening with these creators. And when stories from behind the scenes start to surface, the greater issue is often overlooked in favor of picking apart the creator in the firing line. So I want to explore the culture that exists within the LA community to try and understand why people like David Dobrik find themselves in trouble in the first place. Let's take a step back. It'd be unfair to lump everyone who creates content whilst living in LA under the same umbrella. What we're talking about is the more recognizable creators and the ones who are very influential on social media, the breadwinners, and those who orbit around them. The city is of course a massive hub for the entertainment industry. Historically, it's the place where everyone who wanted to become a star migrated to. But with the growth of social media as a form of entertainment, there's also been a growth in regular everyday people getting a chance at stardom. For some of these people, their hometowns weren't enough, so they took the journey to the City of Angels. This movement was very apparent in 2014, as The Verge says this was the point when those who were popular on the internet began to relocate. There were already early social media and YouTube creators who had set themselves up in LA, but the explosion of Vine was a massive influence in bringing online creators to the city, and one thing the company did was move these creators together. They were thrown into an apartment building with each other so they could create content easily. Once Vine was murdered by Twitter, a lot of these creators were financially capable of staying in the city and had the following to transition to other platforms, specifically YouTube. I'm not a historian, but at this point YouTube became a massive rival to mainstream media audience numbers, and these creators were as influential, if not more, than traditional celebrities. Today we're talking about TikTok, and as expected, LA has become the home for many of its creators. This means there's a lot of meat in this one city, and a lot of people competing for the attention of audiences. What could go wrong? Getting attention is one thing, but maintaining it is a completely different story. A noticeable theme when it comes to the LA creators is the necessity for everything to be big, loud, and very captivating. There's effort put into getting attention, and there's various ways people do it, and it can be comparable to early influencers like Paris Hilton and Nicole Richie.
In the early 2000s, they were tabloid fixtures. They partied in LA all the time. They specifically made it so that paparazzi were following them and photographing them. And so that there was constantly news and discourse that kept their relevancy up and allowed them to monetize off of their reputation through reality TV and sponsorships and other marketing opportunities. They were really like the first class of influencers.
Since social media was very much an infant at this point, these LA influencers would use tabloid publications like people would use social media today. For example, Jeffree Star was one of the first internet celebrities with his use of MySpace. He garnered attention for his outrageous behavior and antics posted to his online profile.
He was behaving in a really outlandish manner in order to get attention online, whether it was good or bad. And as we can see 15 years down the line, that behavior didn't result in a particularly morally upright career. Like Jeffree Star emerged as somebody who wanted attention online at whatever expense. And over the course of the years that followed, that led to a lot of exploitation of the people around him, the people that he was friends with. And it's led to not only like these petty dramas within the YouTube community, but really serious allegations against some of these people. Because if you're constantly like sidestepping the law, sidestepping what's morally acceptable or morally right in order to get attention, then there are consequences to you and the people around you in the process of that.
Shane Dawson's story is much similar. He made racist and very inappropriate comments in his earlier videos, and as a result, he became one of the biggest people on YouTube in the foundation days of the site because he was controversial. Over the years, he changed his approach, and his last efforts were trying to humanize some of these high-profile controversial creators. But it didn't distract people from his past and his not-so-good behind-the-scenes behavior. In 2017 and 2018, the Paul brothers were the biggest attention seekers on YouTube. Both did things for attention, and both went too far in the process. They were both loud, energetic, showcased their wealth, and surrounded themselves with people who egged them on and didn't give them perspective. Jake went into a complete meltdown, and Logan went to a forest. The culture developed from this erodes moral thinking and normalizes this unruly behavior. So when these people do things that get attention, they see that as a good sign, regardless of whether the attention is positive or negative.
So it's really toxic because you have this sort of negative feedback loop emerging where I think Nikita Dragon is a good example of this. Like Nikita rose to YouTube prominence and she became an influencer because of things that were ultimately positive. She transitioned in the public eye and she became a well-known advocate for transgender issues, which was great. But over the past couple of years, as Nikita's star has sort of faded in the YouTube beauty space, she's become more of an online tabloid fixture. And every week, Nikita goes out without wearing a mask and she parties and she gets called out by the paparazzi and she talks to them on the street. And it's in order to keep her name afloat. It's in order to have people talking about her, but it's people talking about her negatively. It's people criticizing her. And that in itself is a really toxic mindset because you're basically acting out in a way that you know is problematic and detrimental to the people around you, so that you can maintain your money, your fame, your attention. But also you can see there are larger repercussions to this type of behavior.
So when it comes to David Dobrik, he never really received any negative attention. In fact, I'm pretty sure he was dubbed unproblematic. But when you look at his content and then look at the allegations that have come out, what was presented was very much out there and reflective of this creator culture in LA. To get views, he needed to get captivating content, and it turns out this exploited other people. But with only 4 minutes of video shown, we don't know what happens beyond these curated moments. However, one thing we do have access to is understanding how the creator group as a whole functions, and from multiple accounts, it's a very toxic environment. But I don't think the Vlog Squad is the only group with this problem. The New York Times reports over the last 6 years, there has been a network of content creator houses formed in LA. Groups of people are put together so they can create content and utilize the destination for promoting their personal brand, and then also work with others to build a group identity. The Hype House is one of the more notable creator groups based in LA right now, but back in my early days on YouTube, the biggest name was Team 10. It wasn't the first, but it definitely made a lot of noise, particularly with how it was used by Jake Paul to fuel his content. Team 10 is a self-described incubator for social media stars, and this in itself is one of the issues facing these creator groups in LA. You bring a bunch of young creators together, give them quotas of what they must do, and then also use them as a playground for your own content. Surprisingly, Shane Dawson did something good for once, and it really explored Jake Paul's thinking when it comes to why Team 10 exists.
Did it feel like that? Like they used you and then they left?
I'm not gonna say names, but the first group of people I would say probably got really greedy.
I'd say like everyone who's left is just like has used us.
Yeah. Because they think they can go on and do something better, and then it's like...
I don't think they realize that they like use us, but when these people come into Team 10, I give them everything, like managers, agents, house, food, money, places to live, like fame, cameramen, editors, brand deals, like everything. I give it to them, and then they forget where they came from after a couple months, and they're like, oh, I can do this on my own. Like, why is Team 10 taking a percentage of my earnings? Like, I want to do something else.
There were creators who departed because the Team 10 environment was toxic. At the head was Jake Paul, who is no figurehead for moral responsibility or being a decent person. And when he holds all of the cards for your financial, residential, and social assets, you would feel pressured to do what he wants. Jake's narcissistic behavior reflects a theme with most of these people at the top. And whatever he wants, he gets. In 2017, when Alyssa Violet was forced out of his group, he tried to ruin her. He said he cheated on him and used his influence over the Team 10 creators to corroborate his story. He would later release the diss track It's Everyday Bro, using his Team 10 to fire shots at his rivals. This led to Alyssa teaming up with RedQueen, who is just as much a controversial figure as Jake. It wasn't soon after Alyssa started dating FaZe Banks, who was a friend of RedQueen. They decided to move in together and form their own group, initiating a rather cold rivalry. In August of that year, Banks was accused by Jake of assaulting his assistant during a night out at a club. Then later, it was revealed the story was misleading, and a Team 10 member literally defected to reveal it was all exaggerated. In hindsight, this looked like a very poor attempt to sink Banks, and Jake used his group to try and harm a rival creator. Unsurprisingly, over the year, Jake faced a lot of repercussions for his actions. His lack of care and thought about his neighbors devolved to the point he looked like an absolute arse on local TV. It wasn't just people outside his group he mistreated as well, with many members eventually leaving after finding issue with the group. Most notably, the Martinez twins, who claimed Jake had mistreated them and essentially exploited them for his videos. And over time, it devolved to the point where all the members parted ways, and Jake had to find new talent for his group. In contrast, the Vlog Squad is very different, but its function was pretty much the same. Unlike Team 10, the creators aren't bound to an official contract. It's more or less an identity they're given for often appearing in Dobrik's vlogs. The payoff for being in these videos was a great deal of attention, and in turn allowed them to find sponsorship deals and build their own platforms. But the big star was David, and at the end of the day, he had full control over what makes the cut. So when I asked where David Dobrik went wrong, this is where we can speculate and answer. To be successful, you need to stand out. To stay on top, you need to keep pushing the boundaries. You can either be controversial and find yourself being talked about negatively daily, or you can exploit people and turn a blind eye, proceeding as if nothing happened. But it does seem like the latter often ends up being the most damaging. David Dobrik didn't necessarily do anything wrong himself, but he allowed this toxic culture to consume his creation, and it led to many people being exploited, and in the end, it hurt people. He gave Dom a platform, and when warned of how that may be a mistake, he decided to turn a blind eye and enable Dom to continue this behavior. He rewarded bold behavior with influence, and he punished those who didn't want to be exploited with exclusion. It's now more a question of who else has been hurt, who else has fallen into the culture, and how can we stop people being hurt in the first place?
I think that this is just the tip of the iceberg. I think that, it's an age-old adage that power corrupts. And that sounds dramatic, but it is true. Influencers are people who have a lot of power, they have a lot of money, they have a lot of influence over young people, and they have these parasocial bonds with their fan bases and various people that they interact with online. But there really isn't people holding them accountable in the same way that mainstream celebrities, politicians, business people any other sphere of power has.
With this idea of creator watchdogs slowly growing, there are more serious topics being brought up in the creator sphere, but a lot of controversies, including these online creators, come out years after the incident happened, and it promotes confusion with how we should respond to them. Because they weren't detected at the time, it raises hesitancy with how the online community responds. But more than often, these allegations don't reach the judicial system, and it becomes a case of trial by the public. On one hand, the stories of victims should be told and heard because it encourages discourse about the misuse of power by these influential people. But on the other hand, reputations are very important, and we have to consider at what point accountability is achieved. So the hot topic right now is how we react to these stories of misconduct and what the most acceptable ways of dealing with the people accused are.
So we've kind of reached this sort of impossible situation where with Dom, for example, like even just currently, Dom has not addressed the allegations against him, but he's back on TikTok posting these videos that are making light of the allegations against him and the situation that the Vlog Squad is in. And you have people responding to that angrily, but that's exactly what he wants. He's looking for that attention because he knows that his career, at least in a private sense, is over. Like, nobody is going to sponsor somebody who's been credibly accused of rape.
As of a few days ago, Dom denied the allegations on his private Instagram. In other words, he made it so that only those who follow him could see it. And quite frankly, I don't think he really understands what he's been accused of doing. They do say, you can't fix stupid.
Dom still wants like some sort of public image clearly, so he's trying to get people to be mad at him. He's trying to engage in this sort of outrage cycle, and that's really dangerous because, at least from my perspective, I think the only thing that we as consumers can do is ignore him, but then people don't always want to just let that kind of behavior slide. So unless the platforms really step in, I don't think we're going to get like a positive outcome with behavior like this.
It's one thing for the community to self-regulate, but then the issue shifts to how platforms themselves manage these situations. After David Dobrik admitted fault for his exploitive content, and after he lost major sponsorship deals, YouTube decided to demonetize his channel. It's a very common theme for YouTube to respond to major incidents with swift demonetizations, but it's essentially a band-aid to a dismembered limb.
I think that the question of how platforms are going to deal with this type of behavior is one that's going to shape influencer culture over the next decade. They wait until the public has reached sort of a decision. They wait until there's enough outrage that they feel like they have to respond in some way. So far, the way that platforms are dealing with this is to not deal with it and to not even acknowledge it for fear of harming their own reputation in the process or taking accountability in a way that they can't maintain.
The refusal by most platforms to be transparent themselves makes navigating these situations so much harder. At what point do they make a decision that reflects the gravity of the outcry? And what justifies their choice of punishment? James Charles recently admitted to texting underage fans, regardless of whether he knew their age. He still did it. YouTube decided to demonetize him more than a week later after the public made noise. These are just reactive decisions to the community outrage, and at no point does it consider how potential victims and those affected can be helped. It doesn't indicate there's going to be any proactive investigations by these platforms into how some of their biggest stars continue to be caught doing morally and legally reprehensible things. There's no communication by brands about how they deal with these kinds of claims, nor does it effectively do anything but bring the attention to the repercussions these creators receive, rather than the behavior that's consistently happening.
I truly think that a lot of social media figures have gotten away with a lot of this type of behavior that we just don't even know about. It feels like we're at the beginning of a wave. Some people have described this as possibly like a Me Too movement for the social media sphere. As people like Hannah are coming forward to share her story, as like the James Charles accusers are coming forward, it's becoming an environment that's more conducive to these types of allegations coming out. I hope that with the allegations that are coming forward, there's a more thorough vetting process from people like journalists and even the law if people want to take it to court and things like that. There's a really like dark underbelly to YouTube fame and influencer fame in general, and I think we're only seeing the beginning of that unraveling.
What happened to David Dobrik was inevitable, and this is just the beginning. We don't know who's next, but the culture indicates there will be more. It's a failure on all levels of power, and there's no clear solution for how to prevent harm. There are so many creators out there with unrestrained influence, and reactions targeting sponsors and their methods of making money do nothing but bring attention to the wrong things. The one thing we can do is tell the stories and encourage people to listen. I've been BWC, thank you for watching. Goodbye.